Hello and welcome to Laytechs Weekly, October 6, 2021. Laytechs Weekly is brought to you by Laytechs, your protection from tech ignorance. My name is Sean. This week's news: 10 years after Steve Jobs' passing, we ask the big question. It has been a decade since the iconic founder of Apple lost his battle to a rare form of pancreatic cancer. And the tech world is abuzz with thoughts on whether Apple would be the same as it is now if he's still running it. Some hardcore fans say that Apple has always been about pushing technological boundaries, and it has lost its mojo post Jobs. There hasn't been a notable new product apart from the Apple Watch. Since then, the company has just been milking its cash cows and making incremental improvements. Apart from the strong branding, it has lost in every technological aspect to its competitors. I agree with that. Another camp disagrees and says that the profit speaks for itself. Tim Cook has been able to bring the company from $7 billion at the time of Steve's death to over $2 trillion today. This can be attributed to strong supply chain management, intense quality control, and the ability to build a walled garden of hardware and services. I agree with that as well, because there is an intense satisfaction of being within the walled garden, as I am now. I don't have to care about what's going on outside of it because my ignorance is keeping me happy and content. Samsung is releasing the third generation of foldable phones right now, and most of iPhones are still using LCD screens. You can compare that, and it's no longer about technology, it's about the experience you have within the walled garden that is created. So the question is, if Steve Jobs was still here running the company, would he have done things differently? Would he have kept pushing technological boundaries? Or would he have run out of ideas and end up being cast out again by the board of directors in Apple? Steve Jobs was an innovator, in my opinion. And innovators are useful at transitional periods of a company and growth periods of a company because they have visions that most cannot fathom. They cannot perceive these kind of visions. But when a company evolves into the maintenance stage, Steve's skills would be useless to them. This is when you go into the mundane little stuff, like, everything is there, and what you do is you tweak and you make incremental improvements on small little things like supply chain management and all the things that Tim Cook is very good today. So I think what Steve Jobs did well was name Tim Cook as his successor because he knows that he is not Steve Jobs and he will never be Steve Jobs. And he also knows that Apple does not need another Steve Jobs. Apple needs someone like Tim Cook who's able to work on all these incremental improvements and bring Apple to where it is today. My point of view. William Shatner finally goes to space. Captain James T. Kirk of the USS Enterprise is finally going to see space with his own two eyes, thanks to Blue Origins and Jeff Bezos. At 90 years old, he will become the oldest person at the edge of space after Wally Fang's trip during Blue Origin's first flight. The flight is scheduled for October 12th out of their West Texas facility. It's actually nothing noteworthy from a technological point of view, but it is a momentous occasion for all the fans of Star Trek. If Leonard Nimoy was here today, he would have been Shatner's perfect companion on this flight. I'm very happy, looking forward to this. I'm happier to hear about William Shatner going to space than I am about Jeff Bezos going to space. Because, I'm a nerd that way. Samsung promises to remove ads from its stock apps, and it delivered on a promise. Many moons ago, we reported on users being annoyed by Samsung stuffing ads into some of its stock apps. It felt like a cheap double dipping, especially after you've bought an expensive S21 Ultra. So the company said it will remove all the ads. As reported by The Verge and 9 to 5 Google, ads on Samsung's weather, pay, and health have all disappeared. We understand having apps in the App Store is important because it serves as a form of recommendation based on your usage behavior. But thank you, Samsung, for cleaning up the apps for us on all the rest of the app stores. Microsoft Surface Go 3 limited by suppliers. Microsoft released its third generation of the Surface Go last week, and everyone thinks it could be a lot better than it actually is. There is so much potential in the Go range, becoming a far better contender to the iPad Air or even the iPad Pro, purely from the operating system's ability to do more than what the iPad's operating system can do. And where the iPads are locked down by limited ecosystem, the Surface Go is limited by the lack of a good ARM chip. Let's face it, Intel can't make good ARM chips. They never have, they never will. Well, never will is a far-fetched, but at this point, there is such a high demand for powerful ARM chips now, right? Yet Intel is completely not interested in working to fill the gap. Why should they? They invested so much on the flagship processors, and there isn't much of a speck of competition in the arena right now to threaten their supply chain, right? So, yeah. Microsoft's SQ1 and SQ2 are great, but they're not fit for entry-level models like the Go. These are for flagship models like the Pro X. Microsoft's very own Windows 11 isn't ready for ARM architecture. So much needs to be done before the Surface Go becomes a perfect device. And I personally believe that the Surface Go can become a far greater device than the iPad can ever be. All it needs to do is fix these two things: the ARM chip and the what is the other thing? Windows 11. Apple cancels iPad Air with OLED for 2022. Earlier this year, Ming Chi Kuo suggested that the iPad Air will be updated in 2022 with an OLED display. More recent reports dropped that the Air will not feature the upgraded display next year due to cost and quality concerns. Meanwhile, there would most likely be a refresh of the iPad Pro 11-inch with an OLED display sometime before the middle of next year. If pricing is accurate with the iPad Air, the new iPad Pro 11-inch would most likely spot a higher price. So if you're looking for an iPad Pro, don't mind still very much the usable LCD screen, get it now. Because when the 11-inch comes with OLED, it will be more expensive than 11-inch is today. Right, that's all for this week's Laytechs Weekly. Laytechs Weekly is available on Anchor FM, Overcast, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and more. Our full videos are available on YouTube, and we post bits and clips on Instagram and Facebook. If you like Laytechs Weekly, it would really help if you could rate and review it on the podcast video of your choice so more can discover it. Laytechs Weekly is on the lookout for a regular co-host to bring more depth to the show. If you're interested, simply drop me an email at ShawnBQT, that is SHAWN, B for Bangkok, Q for Queensland, T for Thailand, at hotmail.com. This is Laytechs Weekly, episode 6 October 2021. My name is Sean. See you next week. Stay safe. Au revoir.